This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, health, tax, professional advice. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. This podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice. The views expressed in this podcast may not be those of the host or the management. This podcast may contain adult themes, so parental discretion is advised. Welcome to the Modern Titus 2 Women Unplugged podcast. Our podcast is one where we fearlessly dive into the unspoken struggles that shape the lives of women today. As part of our mentoring role, we seek resources and support designed to help women thrive. We explore strategies for achieving optimal well-being and performance in every aspect of our life. I'm thrilled to introduce Chelsie Tyler Rencher. Now, Chelsie lives with 2 autoimmune illnesses and manages them through lifestyle. I know from a personal interaction with persons in my family that this can be a very devastating and life-changing illness. I have a friend, both of us are the same age, and she's totally bedridden because of this autoimmune illness. So, this is very important because I'm sure other persons have family members or close friends. So Chelsie is going to come here and she's going to share her journey with us. So we welcome you and for taking the time out of your life to come share with us. So we welcome you again. And if you could just share a bit about your journey with your autoimmune illnesses and just tell us what they are and how what prompted you or what signs you were having while you went to the doctor and, to find out what was going on. So if you could tell us something along that line, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. So your question was about how I got the diagnosis, is that right?
Well, tell us what the autoimmune illness is.
Oh, what the illnesses are, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, one of them is the hypothyroidism Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune illness where the antibodies attack your thyroid. And the most recent one that I discovered last year is rheumatoid arthritis, and that's when antibodies attack the joints in your body. And I also do deal with chronic asthma. So that it's a fun trio that's actually not very fun.
Yes. I have a family member who has the rheumatoid one, and when she had her first one and only child, they were telling her that she has to go on some medication, and that would make her sterile. And she said no, she wasn't going to do it. Yeah.
I'm like her. I don't want to do the medication, and I don't like it.
Yeah. So she's been doing her own juicing and other things like that. So, if you could let us know what was happening to your body, why you had to go to the doctor, what were the symptoms that were occurring that prompted you to go and to get these diagnoses?
Yeah, so for me, it was actually an extremely long process, probably longer than most people. For most women, it can take several years to get a diagnosis. And that's because autoimmune illnesses can be so complex and the symptoms can overlap.
Yes.
And I was actually dealing with my autoimmune illnesses since I've been about 7 or 8 years old. And
really?
Yeah, so it's been a long time, and I didn't have a diagnosis for almost 20 years. They just kept saying that I had severe allergies because I was reacting with hives. Anytime I ate anything, really, I would have symptoms as if I was allergic to the food, and sometimes it was anaphylactic, which means that your body swells up.
Right,
When you're talking anaphylactic, you're talking about your throat or your lips or your eyes. So for 20 years, I've been trying to figure this out. And my mom was really a champion of this when throughout my childhood, and she did her best to try to figure it out. But we just didn't have the information available to us to be able to get a diagnosis. And then when it really got bad is after I had my first pregnancy, and my energy just tanked, and I was really depressed and anxious, and which it wasn't really something that I had experienced before. I was always a very happy, cheery person, even throughout my illness growing up. And so it was just weird. I didn't have energy anymore. I couldn't really work out. And I also I wasn't eating enough, but then I also couldn't lose weight. And I didn't gain a lot of weight after having my daughter, but because the thyroid impacts your metabolism so much, it slowed my metabolism down, which I didn't realize at the time. So no matter what diet I did, or what workout routine I did, it wasn't doing anything for me. And so I would go to the doctors and have them run lab work on me. And I kept asking them, check my thyroid, because I was confident that that was the issue, since there are thyroid issues that run in my family. But every time that the test results came back, they just kept saying, oh, everything's normal. Everything looks fine. You just have depression. Here are some antidepressants. But it just didn't feel true to me. And so I would try to take the antidepressant for maybe a week, because I was desperate not to feel that way anymore. Like, and unless you really experience depression, you really don't know how much it feels like your mind is kind of in a prison, and that can be a really helpless feeling.
Right.
And so I just decided, like, I'm going to just dive into research. If they just keep telling me I'm fine and I know I'm not, I just have to research this and figure it out. And so I also finally found a doctor. She was actually a physician's assistant at a women's clinic. I was like, I'm going to go to a women's clinic. Maybe they'll listen to me more. And this woman finally did. She was like, oh, your levels for your thyroid are a little low. This could be a low functioning thyroid, and which is hypothyroidism. And I was like, finally, somebody has acknowledged, what I have been feeling and what I've been knowing, but it's finally like on paper, and somebody has validated me,
Right.
And then after that, after I found out, the word for it, hypothyroidism, I went and jumped into more research and just really dug in. And I think that's the best thing you can do for yourself is educate yourself. And
Yes.
when I was reading, I discovered that for the majority of cases with hypothyroidism, the underlying issue for the thyroid being sluggish is actually on autoimmunity, which is the Hashimoto's, where the antibodies attack the thyroid.
Right.
And so I went and looked at my markers that they took for my labs, and I realized they didn't take any antibody markers. And I was like, that's weird, because if this is the biggest cause of hypothyroidism, this should be included. And so I went back in and I said, I want you to take my markers for antibodies. I want to know what those are reading. And this PA, physician's assistant, she was really good, and she was super willing to just work with me and do the labs that I wanted.
Right.
And also, by the way, you can order your own labs on your own. You can do that independently without having a prescription. But anyways, so she took those labs for me, and
the insurance paid for it? Your insurance
you have to pay for it. Yeah, you pay for it. But if you submit it through your insurance, then depending on what your insurance pays for, it can work.
Okay.
I actually have been ordering my own labs for a few years now, because I know exactly what I want to see and what I want to know about myself. So anyway, I asked her to take these antibody markers, and she did, and they came back with active antibodies. And that's when I knew, okay, that is what is happening inside of my body, is Hashimoto's. And then from there, I was able to make a game plan.
That's so interesting. So did you have to do any changing with food? I know that some of my family members, but they did drastic changes with food. Did you change your food or anything like that?
Everything.
You changed everything. Okay.
Yeah, and it's been a long process. At first, I thought, I was already eating mostly clean, and so I was like, okay, diet has to have something to do with this. And so before I had the official diagnosis, I said to myself, okay, I'm going to eat whole grain, whole wheat. And actually, for the condition that I was experiencing, that wasn't good for me, because whole wheat is really high in gluten, and
Mhm.
gluten is a factor that will really make it flare up. And I didn't realize that at the time though. And so I just kept feeling worse. And one time I ate quinoa and I was the most depressed I had ever been after eating the quinoa. It just was not a grain that worked well with me. So then I started to just
That's
take out,
interesting.
yeah, I started to take out the gluten and the dairy. And when I did that, a lot of my symptoms went away. After I took out the dairy, I finally didn't have these constant migraines. I got to the point where I couldn't even walk a block without getting a migraine. And then I was finally able to work out again after being off of dairy for just a couple weeks. And then I discovered further down as I, went into educate myself and obtained my nutritionist certification, I discovered that actually you don't, it's the type of gluten that you're eating, it's the type of milk that you're drinking. It's not necessarily the food, it's what has happened to the food as it was being cultivated or as it was being raised. So for example, with gluten, if I have sprouted bread that has wheat in it, I actually can do really well with that, because when you sprout the grain, it changes the structure of the gluten, and it releases more enzyme, and it eats more of the starches, and it's not so heavy, and it's more
Right.
nutrient dense. And
Mm.
then the same thing with the milk. If I had pasteurized milk, I would experience symptoms. But if I had raw milk, a clean raw milk, very clean raw milk, then that wasn't treated with antibiotics or hormones, then I did really well with that, and I can have it every day without having any negative reactions. So I really have been on this long road of discovering what's happening to our food and what it does to our bodies when we ingest it.
So where are you getting this quote unquote clean milk?
I research dairies in the area that I live in, and sometimes
Oh,
I have to travel to get it. Actually, the one that we have is about an hour away. And so
wow.
I will go and get like 6 gallons at a time. And then I'll bring it home and separate it into glass containers and then put it in the freezer. And then I just take out one
Okay,
jar at a time and let it defrost.
that's interesting. I actually did a podcast. It isn't released yet. It's called From Seed to Plate, and we had
Yeah.
a very good discussion about what happened to the food when it comes
Yeah.
from the seed to when it
There's
reached
a
your
lot that
plate. And there was,
happens.
yes, so many things that happened to that poor food that we're
Yeah,
putting
it's
in our
getting
bellies.
destroyed.
Yes,
Yeah, like when I'm in Europe, I can eat whatever I want. I can even eat a whole pizza that's just regular wheat, regular cheese. Well, over there, it's not regular, it's cleaner. They have stricter standards for their food.
right.
But if I come here back home and try to do that, I will be so sick.
Mm-hmm. That's so true, so true, so true.
Yeah.
And then in the Caribbean, we normally have our gardens. We normally plant the food that we eat. The most thing that we might buy is meat if you want a chicken or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So when I come over here, there isn't any place to plant anything, but I don't know where you are. You might have a place that you can plant. Do you do any
Yeah.
planting of anything for yourself? Do you
We
plant
actually
anything?
do. We actually do have space for a garden out where we live right now. And I tried to do like an experimental garden last year, but I was so tired last year, just fighting fighting the
Oh,
autoimmune
okay.
illnesses, that I didn't actually have time to tend it. I had to be really strict with what I used my energy on, and I chose to use that for my children instead. So, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, just to let you know, you can cucumber and beans are thing. You just throw them out there and it grows. You
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
don't
I
have
just
much
threw
work
it
to
out
do.
there.
You don't have
But
much work.
I need to erect a fence because we live in a place where we have a lot of wildlife. We have
Okay.
deer coming through, and bears and
Oh, yes.
armadillo and rabbits and squirrels. And so
Mhm.
I also at the time I just didn't have the energy or the time to be able to like put
Yeah.
something up like that to protect it, even though it would have been really, really helpful, because
Yes.
having good, clean food is integral to recovery.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyhow, that was a very interesting. I haven't released it yet, but that was very interesting. So explain to me this bed rest routine that you go through. What exactly is this bed rest?
Yeah, so the bed rest that I was on, I don't, I haven't talked about it too much. I just kind of throw it out there here and there because I feel like it's kind of startling to people when I talk about it, because when they see me like this, they don't assume that I was on bed rest. You know, it was only since February that I have finally been able to like be really active again, which was awesome. But the reason why I was on so much bed rest is my body was just really weak. And I was going through a lot of different cycles of working with different providers and practitioners, and nothing was working. The usual things that worked weren't working before. And that's something that can be really difficult with autoimmune illnesses, is you think, oh, I've figured it all out. I've done this before. And if I just do the same thing again, it'll work, which sometimes that could be true, but other times your body needs something different to help. And it took me a long time to find the thing that worked, you know, even if I did, you know, I was doing IVs to help myself out. I was doing different diets and, you know, just everything all over again, different types of movement, but my body was just so weak. And so I didn't do very many extra things. And to the outside, to people on, you know, my exterior outside of my home, they probably thought I was flaky or lazy, but really I was guarding my energy and using all of my energy for my children and for my husband and just for my home, because that's what is the most important to me. And then I found this woman who was talking about balancing hormones with food and with intermittent fasting. And I hate fasting. So I kind of was like, no, I don't want to do that. But then I was like, you know, I'm willing to try anything though, because I am really passionate about like living the most that you can while you can. And so I was like, I'll try anything. I really want to experience life to the fullest. And so this woman was talking about intermittent fasting and balancing hormones with food. And I reached out to her and I said, I need help so bad. And I am in a position where no matter what I eat, I'm nauseous and I'm sick. And so I have a hard time eating properly because everything I eat is making me sick. And so I'm really needy right now. I was just really forward with her. I'm really needy. Do you think you can coach me with your program that you have? And I told her, like, I'm going to need you to tell me exactly what to eat. I don't have the mental capacity to even figure out what I'm supposed to eat. I only have the mental capacity to make sure my children have what they need and they're taken care of and they're having fun and they're safe. But I just like the mental load of that was so overwhelming because I had been burdened with it for so long and nobody else was able to figure it out with me. And so she was game. She was all for it. And I told her, I'm going to message you and I'm going to say, what should I have for breakfast? Or I'll say, after I ate that, I had 2 bites and I'm nauseous. What else can I have? I was like, I just need you to baby me. I need you to manage everything with this. And she was all for it. She's like, yep, let's do it. Let's do it. And so we did. And it was awesome. With the first couple of weeks with going into the intermittent fasting, was pretty difficult because I was already weak, but then I could feel my body shifting into a different use of energy, which was good because my blood sugar was really imbalanced, which if your blood sugar is really imbalanced, then your hormones will also be out of whack. So even though it was hard to move into that phase of intermittent fasting where my body wasn't using just glucose, but it was also utilizing fat stores as a slower method of energy, it was good, but it was hard because my body was already weak and I could feel my muscles like cramping and stuff. So I would drink a lot of minerals in my water, just like pour the minerals in to help my muscles and my bones and stuff. And then the first week, I could do about 5 minutes of walking down the street. And I told her, you know, the goal was like, let's get 30 minutes of movement in. And I told her, I don't think I could do that right now. Some weeks I have spontaneous energy and it comes out of nowhere. And it's really because of what phase you're in your menstrual cycle. And sometimes you have a lot more energy because of the hormones that are at play. But I told her most days I really don't have that much. And so she was like, just do 5 minutes. Or even just 1 minute, and then every day add on 1 minute or even 30 seconds, like just tiny little steps. And
baby steps.
And at first it kind of annoyed me because I'm used to seeing myself as very physically strong and active. And I was like, I can do more than 30 seconds at a time, like whatever. But then it was so disappointing when I would go 5 minutes and be like dragging my feet and like barely making it. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do what she said. I did hire her for this after all. So I did, but within a couple weeks of giving my body the nourishment that it needed. And she was really focusing on high protein, high fiber. After just a couple weeks of that, for the first 2 weeks, my body was just getting back to maintenance, just filling the stores and the deficiencies that I had with nutrition. And then after that, I was able to slowly start walking more and more. And by the time I was done working with her, I was building a fence for my goats outside, and I was building a pasture for them. And it's incredible what your body can do when it's given what it needs to heal. And I was just like over the moon, because I went from bed rest to building a pasture in 2 months. And I was like so grateful. It will never not rest with me, like how cherished and precious it is, the days that we have, and the way we spend our time, and the energy we have, and the strength that we have. It's just what I'm trying to say is, like, I don't even have the words for it. Like, I'm just so grateful for the good days that I have, and being able to experience life again.
I understand what you're saying, because we take, even breathing air, we take it, but we just breathe. But when COVID came, you realize that air is very important.
Yeah.
You're like,
and clean air. We need the clean air.
And even the touch of another human being, and another hug, somebody hugging you, just to give you affirmation. It's such an important thing.
Oh my gosh, hugs regulate my nervous system so well.
There you go.
Hugs are awesome.
Right. Things that we don't think about, but when it is missing, there is an impact, because it's important.
Yes, massively. Yes, so true.
Yes. So I know, I understand. I can relate to that part.
I don't take it for granted. Those are the
no, I don't take anything for granted. I don't take things, and I learned a lot about sweating the small stuff. I don't sweat small stuff.
Yeah, just letting the small things go. It doesn't matter.
Mother always say, if it has a beginning, guess what? It has an end. It will come to an end.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. My motto as I go through different flare-ups is, our bodies are made to heal. That's what I tell myself over and over again. Our bodies are made to heal. And sometimes if a flare-up lasts really long, I almost come to the point of not believing it. Like, is this the end for me? Is this the end of my body? Because there's not an end, and it's just going, and it's so long, and I'm getting weaker and weaker. But then I'm like, oh, I don't want to give up, though. I don't want to give up. I want to live life. I want to watch my children grow. I want to grow old with my husband. Like, I don't want to give up.
You will. You're going to be there for the wedding. You're going to see your grandchildren. You will.
Yeah, a little at a time. And I'm doing really well now. And it's really exciting to finally feel good again.
Yes. We were not created to be ill and sick and, can't function. That's not what we were created for. So
yes, we're created to thrive.
Yes, we're created to thrive.
Yeah, I love that. So
what would you tell someone who is going through these autoimmune illnesses, whether it's MS, whether, whatever? What would you tell them based on your journey so far? I know that one thing.
About where to begin, or just in general? Well,
like, for instance, I gathered from the conversation that we were having that you have to be your own advocate. That's what I gathered in some of the things that you were saying. You had to, you had to make sure, tell them what kind of blood test you want, and you have to be your own advocate. So
that's definitely a big topic that I'm an advocate of. There you go. Is being your own advocate, and a big part of that is educating yourself and walking away from the professionals that can't help you or don't know how to help you. If they're not giving you answers, they simply don't understand it, or they don't know what to do, or they haven't seen it before, or maybe they're feeling insecure or intimidated by it, because autoimmune illness really didn't skyrocket until the last 2 decades, and especially within this last decade. So it's really new for a lot of people and a lot of medical professionals. But being your own advocate and educating yourself, even if that's investing in a program to learn more about your body, is the most powerful thing that you can do, because then you understand what's happening in your body, and you can understand what needs to happen in order to heal it. But also just starting small, even if you feel like so overwhelmed with everything, just pick one small thing that you can do. And it feels insignificant at the time when you compare it to what you're experiencing and kind of the helplessness that you feel, or maybe the pain that you're in. But one small thing at a time begins to accumulate and magnify as you go. And it's not just about doing one small thing. The one small thing is also becoming consistent. And as you become consistent, you become stronger, and your body and your mind become stronger together. And then you can slowly add on more. So it's really just start with a small thing. Even if you think it's not making a difference, it is.
Yeah. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't start unless you start. You're not going to go anywhere unless you do something.
Journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Just start walking.
Exactly.
As we're talking about walking, I think I saw you on your Facebook page. You seem to be very active, doing things like a lot of exercise and all of that. So what does the role of physical activity play in your health management? What role does it play?
I've changed my approach to this a lot as I've gone through different phases, and as my hormones have shifted into different phases. Right now, at first, my goal was like, I really want to lose weight, because while I was on bed rest, I felt like I had gained some weight, and it wasn't a lot, but it was still uncomfortable for me because it was the most that I had experienced. But then after a while, it wasn't even about losing weight. It was about gaining mobility and gaining strength so that I could live the best quality of life for myself and for my family. So that is my goal with fitness now. For a while, it was like all about HIIT and go harder and go stronger and lift heavier and, you know, all those things. But when you enter into different phases of health, different ages, different phases, different conditions, it really changes how you approach fitness. For example, if I were to do a lot of high intensity interval training workouts, it would actually have a really negative impact on my thyroid, and I would end up gaining weight because it would be too taxing and it would slow down the function, which would slow down my metabolism. So instead of doing things like that, the activity I do the most is walking. And speed walking, even if it's slow. Maybe I'm having a day where I don't have as much energy, even if it's just slow. I want to have consistency and always having mobility in my body. And then strength training. And I used to strength train longer, but now I do it in shorter bursts. So sometimes I'll do only 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes I'll do 20 minutes. And then the weight that I use depends on what my energy feels like and where I'm at in my cycle. It's so important for women to understand their menstrual cycles, because it really is very powerful in indicating the way that you feel and the strength and the energy that you have. So I really follow my cycles very closely. And if I'm at a certain space, then I'll lift a little bit heavier. And if I'm not, then I'll do a little lighter. But I really like to combine walking cardio with strength and Pilates, bar, things that are more low impact.
The importance of sleep and rest.
So important. Your body can't heal without sleep and rest. And sometimes it feels frustrating because it can feel like the only thing you're doing is resting, and you're like, I'm so sick of resting. I'm so done with this. And sometimes that does mean that you need to take additional steps with your healthcare and finding something more supportive for your body that will fit better. But other times, I think this is one of my favorite quotes that I've heard, is that rest is one of the most productive things that you can do sometimes.
That is so true, because even sometimes when I try to push myself, like I want to finish something and I push myself, 9 out of 10 times I have to come back and do it over, because it's either I had the mental fatigue and I forgot something, you know, because you're pushing yourself. So sometimes you just have to just stop and just leave it there, take a rest, and come back with a fresh pair of eyes up, you know, or whatever it is.
That can be a hard thing to push against at times, because especially the society that we live in, it's very go, 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 don't rest, don't stop, get ahead of everybody. It's very competitive, but it's really not conducive to women and the way that our hormones are built. Like if you think about the 9 to 5 everyday working, that's very testosterone driven. That's where a man will really thrive, in that kind of 9 to 5. But especially as women get into our 30s and our 40s, we feel the impact of our hormones even more than we used to. And we really need a break in the middle of the day to just rest. And that doesn't mean that we're weak. It just means that our bodies need something different and that we're just built differently. And what I really loved is when I was living in Spain, Spaniards, the whole country, or at least most of the country, have a thing called mediodía, which is middle day or midday. And for 2 to 3 hours, everything shuts down. Everybody's on break. Everybody's having a rest. Sometimes they take naps and it's just the streets go quiet. Everybody's home. And they all just rest for a few hours, and then they come back and they finish the day. And I have really adopted that since coming back from living in Spain. Every day we have quiet time. Me and my kids, we both get our quiet time. That's the time where our brains rest, our bodies rest. We just have time to destimulate, relax, regulate the nervous system. It's so helpful.
But I think Japan has something similar.
What does?
Japan. In Japan,
yeah.
they have something
Yeah.
that's probably similar to where persons at a certain point in the work they just rest, and then
Yeah, they just rest.
And they find that they're more
which I love.
productive.
It's so great.
Yeah, they find that they're more productive. But as you said that, especially for women, it can be a lot, because the thing about it with women, we work in the workplace. And then when we come home, we work again. We can't do like the men, put our foot up and read the paper or look at the sports. We have to look about our children. We have to, make sure everything, the meals are prepared. And we have a second job when we come home.
Yeah, there's lots of jobs.
That's a second job.
Yes, and I'm really grateful because I live in a home, like the way that my family has structured things with me and my husband is we don't function that way. So I really love that when he's done with work, he might take like a breather to destimulate from the workday, but then after that he jumps in and we tackle the evening together. And I think that's really instrumental too, and not feeling like I have to do all of those things by myself. Like that's not very fun.
I know. Yes, it's true.
And if you even think about the history of humanity, like people took breaks, especially at the top of the day. That's the top of the day where it's the hottest. And people would go inside and cool down, and they stopped working because it was too hot to work. And suddenly we're in this modern society where we never stop, and we have this adrenal fatigue, and our thyroids are tired and our minds are tired. And we're just not giving ourselves the rest that we need. And that's a big contributor to our unwellness, I guess you could say.
Yeah, well, we live in what you call a microwave society. Everything is instantaneous. Gratification, instantaneous. Microwave. Just put it in there, get it out.
Yeah, well, even look at animals and the way the animals function. They go and they take a break.
Of course they do.
I know, of course they do. That's what we should do.
That's interesting. So how do you handle moments of frustration? You're doing all of this and how do you handle it? Because frustration brings on stress in itself too.
Yeah.
So how do you handle it? How do you say, how do you handle it?
That's a really good question. I don't think that I really have anything deep here. I honestly, I think my mentality is I just have to deal with it for now. It'll go away soon. And I can't think about it too much because it can be discouraging and that can kind of be worse. So I just try not to think about it too much. I try not to give it too much attention or dwell on it. So, but I also give myself the permission to be really angry and really frustrated if I'm feeling that. Sometimes we shy away from our big feelings, but I think it's important to just acknowledge them and be okay with the big feelings. So sometimes it can be really disappointing or really depressing or really frustrating. And sometimes I do get really angry and I just have to let myself feel those feelings. And sometimes I will go on a walk all by myself and just kind of stomp my feet a little bit like a little kid, like, or
why not?
or sometimes I just rant to my dog, and my dog is my little therapist. And she's a
He
great
doesn't
listener
answer
because
back.
she can't talk back. She can't say anything about it. She's just a supporter.
And she doesn't take it personal. She doesn't take it
Yeah.
personal.
No, she's my gossip girl. We chat all the time.
That's
So
funny.
honestly, I just have to find healthy ways where I can just let it out. And then my biggest thing is feel with it and deal with it and then let it go. Don't dwell on it, because if you dwell on it, then it's hard to really feel positive about it because it happens so frequently, the symptoms that I experience. So yeah, I think that's my biggest thing is think it through, feel the
Think it
feelings,
through.
and then be done with it and let it
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. As my grandma would say, if it has a beginning, it has an end.
I love that. Yeah. I'm going to take that and remember it. If it has a beginning, it has an end. That's true. It's not
That's
going to
the
last
way. So,
forever.
yeah.
This moment in time is not going to last forever. That is something that I say to myself a lot. This isn't going to last forever. Like it'll go
Yes.
away.
Yes. So how do you advocate? Well, you sort of we got bits and pieces when you're talking, but how do you advocate for yourself when you go to these doctors? How do you ensure that you receive the best care? I know
I just tell them what I want.
yeah.
I think sometimes they're really used to having the authority, and I kind of take it back and I give it to myself
Right.
because I know my body the best and I've really been through the ringer with this health stuff. And so if I can tell really quickly if a doctor isn't willing to work with me or if they don't understand the nature of an autoimmune illness. And so if that's the case, I just don't go back. I go find somebody else. I need to find
I agree
somebody
with
else
you.
who can be with me and who I don't feel like I'm pushing against. And if I request something, that we can discuss it and then they go, okay, sure, let's do it. But for honestly, if I'm being totally honest, for the most part, I opt for nutritionists and holistic practitioners instead. And that's also a big reason why I went and got my own education so that I could be qualified to be able to do that for myself. But everybody needs somebody else, so I do have a natural health practitioner that I go to a lot, and she's really good at understanding what I need. And then I just find providers in the area who will work with me instead of because I know this happens in any field, but if I feel like they have an ego and they're not going to hear me out, then I just have to walk away. And some people feel like it's their job to push against it and to tell them what to do, but it's really not. It's just go find someone else who will work with you and be an advocate with you. I guess I don't know if that really answered the question.
Because as I said, I have family members who have these challenges also, and a lot of it also has to do with the insurance. Sometimes there are tests that
Yeah.
they don't want to do because the insurance don't want to pay for it and they can't justify it. So there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot. And for every person, it's a little different with what they prefer and what they're comfortable with. And some people are really comfortable with traditional medical and others are not. And for me, I've just seen so much over the last 20 years of trying to figure out what's going on with my body that the approach isn't for me. I prefer something else, but there are aspects of it that can be really helpful too. There are times when I do need a medication, and I'm really grateful for those providers when they can be there for me and support me when I need that. So it really is just using the best of both worlds, because there are really, really good things in the medical system, and then there are things that have been more of a detriment to me. So it's really about finding the balance of what works for you with natural health and different alternative methods. There are so many available to us today that, just try things, start somewhere and try it, and you'll find something that works eventually. The best way
Right.
is to jump in and try something though, because you're not going to know how your body reacts until you do it.
Funny you say that. The other day I went, my daughter came and she bought this thing named something like moss or something like it's like a jelly, like a Irish like something you boil and it comes from the sea. It's like a sea
Oh,
moss. Yes.
oh, cool.
Right. And she bought that and I'm saying, well, this is the same thing my grandma used to boil and give us and to sweeten it
That's
as
cool.
a drink and give us. So how are you spending $30 on this?
Yeah, and you were like, you guys just went and harvested it out in the sea by yourselves. That's so cool. That's probably so rich in minerals coming from the ocean too. That's awesome.
So she paid $30 for this thing, and I'm like, my grandma used to give us that. You know, used to buy it in the market, and she boil it, and it was like a drink that we don't, you know,
Yeah,
it's
that's
supposed
really
to build up your
cool.
body. Yes, yes.
I want
So
that.
she's getting it for $30. I said,
You're like, no, thank you. I got that for free growing up.
I know what to do myself.
Yeah, you could actually. You're in Florida, right? You could just go harvest it at the sea, go find it.
No, when they have it already, harvest already. You just buy it in the store, but you know, all the basically they do is boil it in the raw, boil it in the and put it in a container, selling it for $30. And I'm telling her you can go and buy it in the store and boil it yourself, strain it, and put it in the fridge,
Yeah.
and you save it $30.
Yeah, there's so much you can save if you just do it yourself.
Yeah, and you have a big batch there too.
Yeah.
So what are your future goals in regard to your health?
What are
Or
my
probably
goals?
generally, what are your future goals? I remember you were saying something about podcasting, so that is a future goal for you.
Oh yeah, that is a future goal for me. I am stirring a little pot of a podcast, and I really think I want it to be about women who are experiencing unique health challenges and how they overcome them and how they found the resources that they needed and the answers that they came upon, because it's so different for every person, but it can also be so difficult if you're the one going through it, knowing where to begin. And so, and especially women's health is studied so much less than men's health, and a lot of the medical studies that have been done are usually done on men because it's easier to do the studies on them since they have less hormonal shifts. It's less complicated, so you know, they've been the ones that they use. So I think it's really important for women to be able to hear from other women what they did when they had PCOS, when they were diagnosed with cancer, when they had UTIs, when they got a hysterectomy, when they went through menopause, and like, what did these women do? What were their cues? What, you know, what helped them to get through it? And also, what did it feel like? And I think women just really deserve to have a big voice, and we deserve resources.
I agree with you, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. So how do you stay motivated? I know you always mention your children and your husband. I know that is part of your motivation. But what else motivates Chelsie? What else motivates you?
My children and my husband are definitely the top three, but also aside from that is, at the end of the day, the biggest person that you live for is yourself. And I really didn't want my life to be cut short because of a health condition that, you know, I really just wanted to do all that I could to make sure that I could experience life to the fullest. Like, I really wanted, there's so much of the world I haven't seen. There are so many incredible people I haven't met yet that will probably be key players in my life. And there are just so many cool experiences that we can have. And I think that was my biggest thing, is I'm just really passionate about life and experiencing different things and trying new things and learning new things. Living with a chronic illness, especially with the bed rest this last year or so, has just made me even more aware of how much time we don't have, how limited we are on it, how it's such a finite source for us while we're in this life on earth. And so I just want to utilize it the best that I can and spend it with the people that mean the most to me. So I guess maybe that sounds like shallow in a way, but I really love living life because I love to experience all the things. And I'll try almost anything once, even if somebody says it tastes nasty or it's disgusting, except for diving with sharks. I will not do that. But I just really want to experience life. I'm really passionate about living for now and seeing what I can do and challenging myself, because why not?
Why not? Yeah, that's it. Why not?
Why not? What have I got to lose? Let's do it.
So we've basically come to the end. We could go on and on and on. I hope at some point we do a part 2. And you tell me
I have
about your
so many stories.
podcast and the other stuff that you're going to do and all of that. We could probably see what's going on there. But most
Yeah.
of all, I want to thank you. I really want to thank you for really giving us a real understanding of this the whole
Autoimmune illness.
disease, the illness and the things that go to it, the different facets, the different permutations or combination of stuff that go together, to even allow you to be sitting in front of me today.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been a
Yes, thank you.
journey.
I appreciate that. It's definitely very complicated, but it's worth it to figure it out.
Yes, it's been a journey, and I appreciate you taking the time from your family and your loving husband to spend time with Modern Titus 2 Women this evening. So we don't take it lightly. We really appreciate you, and we tell you
Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. It's been really
Thank
great,
you.
and I really appreciate the opportunity.
So what would you be able to tell us our listeners how to get in touch with you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
okay.
just barely opened up my social media pages, so they're very small, but I would love to be joined on Hidden Impact Podcast. I have a page on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. I might build one on Facebook. I'm not really sure, but check it out if just in case, because I'll probably have done it anyway by the time you hear this. But yeah, Hidden Impact Podcast.
Okay, what you can do is just send me and I can put it in the notes.
Yeah,
The notes for the podcast that because I'm
for
sure
sure.
I'm 99.99% sure persons out there going through the same thing and will really
Yes,
love
so
to speak
many.
to you. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
So,
thank you.
no, thank you. The pleasure was definitely mine. Thank you. So there
Thank
goes,
you.
folks. Once again, Modern Titus 2 Women. Yes, we we help support our women and we explore the strategies of achieving well-being and performance. And today, Chelsie is a living, walking testimony of that. All right, Chelsie, have a good evening and we'll talk
Thank you.
again.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.